Hi, boys and girls, Miss Manahan here, and I am here with Rattenborough, and we are swimming through the ocean today. As you can guess, we are going to learn about oceans today and saltwater habitats. And I bet you could guess what all saltwater habitats have in common. If you guess salt, you're right. They all have salty water. First, before we get started in exploring, we're going to go over some vocabulary words that we might come across today. So, the first one is slopes. If you've ever been skiing, you've been skiing down a slope. If you've ever been down a slide, you went down a slope. So it means downward. The next word is valleys, which means an area of where the land is low. The next word is shallow, and that's the opposite of deep. And then this word that starts with an R, regeneration. Can you say that with me? Regeneration. It is a very big word for us first graders, and it's a pretty cool word. Regeneration means that an animal, if they're missing a certain body part, they can grow it back. Isn't that so cool? And then the last word is plankton, and plankton is a tiny sea creature. Whales love to eat plankton. So let's get started. So welcome to the last habitat we are going to explore. In the last read aloud, we explored freshwater habitats. Now we're going to learn about another kind of water habitat, a saltwater habitat. Saltwater habitats, as you guessed from their name, contain lots of salt. This means that we can't use salt water for drinking. Would you like to drink salty water? Ugh, no thanks. It's hard to imagine, but more of the earth is actually covered in water than covered in land. Most of the water is salt water, like oceans and seas. Oceans are huge areas of salt water that stretch all around the planet, and they are home to almost half of the world's species of animals and millions of different plants. The water in the ocean comes from rain as well as from rivers and streams that flow into the ocean. Seas are smaller areas of salt water that have land around them, or around part of them. So, we've come to the largest ocean, the Pacific Ocean, to show you more about habitats and the plants and animals that live there. This is a beach. Looking out at the water, you can see the waves crashing onto the beach. The beach and any land that runs alongside the ocean is called the coastline or the shoreline. You may think that when you're standing on the land looking at water that the land stops where the water starts. It certainly looks this way. The land actually slopes downward. The further you go out into the water, the deeper and deeper it gets. The interesting thing about the ocean floor, which is the land under the ocean water, is that it isn't flat. As on land, the earth beneath the waters has mountains and valleys. This makes some areas of the water deeper than in other parts of the ocean. So as you can see here is a tall mountain, and down here would be called the valley. We just learned about that. That's the low part of the land. The Pacific Ocean is full of plant and animal life, but not all of them share the same space. The conditions under the water are very different in various places. Some parts are deep and some are shallow. There are cool parts and there are warm parts. Some are dark and some are full of light. There are plants and animals in nearly every part of the ocean. Some are in deep open waters from the land, and some are in shallow waters closer to the shore. Some animals, like turtles and crabs, live closer to the shore where it's shallower and warmer. Some animals like it better near the surface of the water, and others prefer to live down at the very bottom of the ocean on the deep ocean floor. They have all had to adapt to the conditions of their habitat. For instance, the animals that live in the deeper parts of the ocean have adapted to total darkness because the sun's light just can't reach that deep. Some fish, like the devilfish, have a large mouth and sharp teeth so that they can catch their prey as easily as possible. Other sea creatures have feelers on their body to help them feel where their food is. And some animals make their own light with the special chemicals in their body, like when you carry a flashlight in the dark. So can you tell which of sea creatures might live towards the top of the water where the sunlight hits and some that might live further deeper down? I think you can tell. And if you've ever seen Nemo and that strange creature that has those sharp teeth and that light, and Dory finds and sees that light, that's a deep sea creature. It's pretty scary looking though. So he's adapted because he uses his light to catch his food. Let's look at the coral reef. Oh, it's beautiful. So we've now arrived at a very special part of the saltwater habitat called a coral reef, which is made up of tiny animals called coral. Corals stay in one place until their adult lives. They have stomachs and mouths and even skeletons. These skeletons can be on the inside or the outside of the coral animals. When the coral animal dies, the skeleton remains in place and other coral animals will come and live on top of the old skeletons. The colony in which the coral lives is called the coral reef. So as you can see, some of the vibrant colors, these ones are more alive, and some of these guys, these are their skeletons left remaining. So here's Rattenborough with his scuba gear on. He's ready to explore the coral reef. So he's there in the Pacific Ocean at the coral reef. In addition to the coral, there's many kinds of other animals around the reef. He's found many different things from fish to shellfish, to octopi and sharks, to snails and turtles. Ooh, what's this? Can you guess? If you said starfish, you are correct. We get starfish because of its shape. Of course, it's shaped like a star. And here is an animal that lies in and around the coral reef whose name, you guessed it, like we said, it's a starfish. This starfish is also known as a sea star. It has 5 arms, which make it look like a star. Although it's called a starfish, it's not actually a fish at all. It belongs to a group of animals that have spiny skin all over their bodies. If I touch a starfish, I can feel the body that it's covered with tiny hard bumps that protect it from predators such as sharks, manta ray, and other fish. Starfish are also able to protect themselves in another amazing way. If another animal actually catches it and bites off one of the starfish's arms, the starfish will not die. And it can still escape. In time, a new arm will grow back, replacing the missing arm. And when an animal grows back a missing body part, it's called regeneration. And here is another kind. The starfish doesn't swim. It crawls very slowly along the ocean floor using hundreds of tiny little feet. The feet attach to whatever the starfish is crawling over. As it crawls along the floor, the starfish is always looking out for food. The starfish's prey include fish, snails, clams, oysters, and crabs. The lobster. So here's another animal that lives in salt water. Lobsters live on the ocean floor in openings between rocks. Their hard shell stops most of other animals trying to eat them. Lobsters have many legs that they use for crawling about. And they also use antennae on top of their head to feel their way along the murky ocean floor. I have to watch out for the lobster claws, though. They're called pinchers. and they're very strong. The lobsters use them to defend against their prey and to catch and crush their own food. Lobsters are carnivores. They eat fish, worms, and other shellfish. We better move out of this way before this lobster pinches us. Ooh. Hammerhead Shark. And I bet you can figure out how it got its name. The Hammerhead Shark got its name because his head kind of looks like a hammer. So here we go. If you take a look, you can see that its head is very thick and it looks like a hammer from above with an eye and nostril on each end. The hammerhead shark is a large fish growing up to 20 feet long and weighing over 500 pounds. That's about the same weight as 10 first graders. Hammerheads like to live in warm waters, so they're mostly found near the coast where waters are shallow and warmer. Sharks are carnivores. The hammerhead's favorite food is a fish called a ray, but it also likes to eat octopus, lobster, crab, and fish, including other sharks. But most sharks have smooth and slender bodies, which help them to swim fast. Their mouths are full of sharp teeth to help them catch prey. So going back up near the surface, there's a sea animal I'm sure you'll want to see. We'll have to travel further out to sea to swim away. Oops, I'm sorry. To see away. Oh, we have to travel farther out to sea, away from coral reef and into deeper water to see it. This amazing creature is the biggest animal in the world. It's the blue whale. Blue whales have blue-gray skin and are covered in a layer of blubber that helps keep them warm in frigid ocean depths. Blue whales are so big that they can weigh as much as 25 elephants. In fact, blue whales are the biggest animals known to have lived on Earth, even bigger than dinosaurs. The blue whale spends all its time living in deep water, but unlike fish, it can't breathe underwater because it does not have gills. It needs to breathe air just like we do. The blue whale can hold its breath and stay underwater for as long as 30 minutes before eventually having to come up for air. It breathes using blowholes on the top of its head. Sometimes, when it does come up for air, it breathes out a huge fountain of water from the blowhole. Blue whales are carnivores. They eat lots of food to build up their blubber during the summer months when food is easy to find. Blue whales eat tiny sea creatures called plankton. The plankton that blue whales eat are small shrimp-like shellfish. They're about the size of your little finger. Incredible to think that the biggest animal on Earth eats one of the smallest animals on Earth. The ocean is so huge and deep that we could spend all year looking at plants and animals that live there and still not seeing them all. In fact, there are still many living things in the ocean that people and adventurous rats like Rattenborough have not yet discovered. I hope you've all enjoyed learning about the animals in the saltwater habitat in the Pacific Ocean. We still have one more stop to make, though, on our worldwide tour of habitats. So that's a little bit about saltwater. There are so many more creatures that live in, so many different creatures and plants that live in the saltwater. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions to see if you were listening. So what makes a water habitat a saltwater habitat? If you said it contains a lot of salt, you're right. It sure does. How would you describe the ocean floor? Do you think it's flat, level, or do you think it goes up and down? It sure does. It goes up and down. It slopes and goes up just like land outside of the ocean. It has mountains and valleys. Well, what are some of the ways that animals have adapted to saltwater habitats? Well, for example, a shark has a large mouth and sharp teeth to catch its prey. Lobsters have feelers to find food in the dark. And some creatures have chemicals to make light. Describe types of animals that live in the saltwater habitat. What are some of your favorite animals? Mine, I like the sea star or the starfish. What were some of the other animals we talked about? And one more question. Do you think the animals that you learned about way back in the Arctic Ocean, like walruses and polar bears, do they also live in the Pacific Ocean? If you said no, you're right. Why not? If you said because the Arctic Ocean is very cold, like polar bears and walruses, they need colder temperatures. The climate and other conditions are very different in saltwater in the Pacific Ocean. Well, boys and girls, thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about saltwater habitats. Bye!